This show's been brought to you by Anarchy Wear. They are a great organization who sells clothing, banners like what's behind me, hats, all kinds of stuff. And they're absolutely amazing. Not only do they put out awesome content, they also make awesome things like this. And if you're a Spooner fan, you have this. Let me stand up. I didn't sign shit. Lysander Spooner. If you're a Spooner fan, you'll totally understand. If you're not a Spooner fan, get in my DMs and I'll let you know, because he's one of the greatest to ever do it. This flag behind me, enemy of the state. Man, that's Murray Rothbard, the greatest to ever do it. I'm a Rothbardian. He is my favorite economist. He is my favorite anarchist, libertarian, whatever you want to call him. Fantastic material that he's put out. I highly recommend you read his books, but Anarchy Wear has everything from bold to cute and modest. You know what I mean? So like, check them out at Anarchy Wear on X, aka Twitter. At anarchywear.ca on anything meta, being Facebook and or Instagram. They're awesome. I love those guys. They're doing great things. And I highly recommend you follow them and get some goods from them, man. I love everything I have from these guys, and they're amazing. And let me throw this in for you. If you use promo code BudsnReality, Buds, letter N, reality. I know you know how to spell. If you're watching this show, you're pretty smart. I know you are. Anyways, get at them, get yourself some gear. And if you use the promo code BudsnReality, you will get yourself 15% off. Who doesn't like a deal? So get at them, check them out. They are great, awesome people. Thank you for the sponsor, and let's get on with the show. Welcome to the BudsnReality Show. I'm Sean Collins, your favorite anarchist. And we got Mr. Joel Ellenwood back, aka the Infinite Zeal Syndicate. How are you, my friend?
What's going on?
Man, you're looking at it, man. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad to have you. You know, it's been a minute, since we did this the last time. And I always have a good time with you. But I have to ask you something. Since you're one of my sponsors for this show, right? Mrs. Buds threw something out there at me, and I don't necessarily agree with her. So she said, hey, people really liked, the guy with a lot to say before. And then you changed it to your favorite anarchist. She's like, I don't like the favorite anarchist. You got to go back to the guy with a lot to say. What do you have to say? I might even do a Twitter
Um,
this.
I don't know. I say do a poll and just see what the people what the people think about it. So I don't know. A guy with a lot to say, favorite anarchist, your favorite anarchist with a lot to say. I don't know. You could diffuse them together. So I don't know. I would say do a poll and see what everyone thinks.
That's a lot to remember, though. The guy with
Yeah,
a
that
lot
is a
to
lot.
say, your favorite anarchist, or vice versa. Or, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could even get that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But man, thanks for doing this, and I really appreciate your time. I took last week off. Life was just so busy, and I just couldn't do it. There was no time for it. And I wasn't even to be quite honest with you, I was in the mindset for it. It was like, I just got to turn this off for a minute. So I did, and here we are, a week later, and so much has happened. I don't even know where to begin, honestly. But I think we should just go in full bore, feet first or head first, whichever way you like to jump in the water. I like to go in head first anyways. But
I'm a
like
belly flop kind of guy. So hey, however you want to do it.
well, like, so I missed the boat with the, doing a show after the Jerome Powell 60 Minutes episode. And wow, did you catch that? Did you see Jerome Powell in
Um,
minutes?
I think I saw a couple of clips. I didn't watch the sit down, but I'm sure he had a whole bunch you know, a whole bunch of nonsense to talk about.
Well, I mean, he did your typical, well, nothing's foolproof and there's a science to it.
Yeah.
And there's no exact science, and everything's just a guessing game, not verbatim, but along those lines. The same shit that everybody from the Fed always says. But one thing he did say was the quiet part out loud. which was like, wow, he really said this on live television. Or it was recorded, maybe. I don't know how 60 Minutes works. He said it on TV. And the dude literally said that the United States cannot sustain at the spending habits that they have at this moment. Now, Jerome Powell's the chair of the Federal Reserve. If you don't know that, I'm letting you know right now. He said the quiet powder loud. And I'm going, holy shit, he really just said that on TV. And then maybe a week later, they're out here, the United States government is out there spending $95 billion between Israel and Ukraine. And I'm going, these people are literally mocking you and laughing in your face. They're spitting in your face. Like, I don't know how to explain it, or even, and well, I know how to explain it, but I don't know how to make it rational to the normal brain who doesn't think like we do, to say that, okay, the chair of the Federal Reserve just said we can't keep spending money, but then turns around and loans the money to the government to send overseas. And so I look at it as, these people hate you. They're mocking you, and they don't care a single inkling about your livelihood or your kids or your families or anything else. It is completely absurd that you can get the chair of the Federal Reserve on national TV to say something like he said, and then the United States government turns around and sends $95 billion overseas, which was borrowed from the Federal Reserve, which, oh, by the way, when they borrow money, it accumulates interest. And guess what, motherfuckers? You're all paying for it. You're paying for it. I'm paying for it. Everybody in this fucking nation is paying for this. They won't stop, dude. They literally won't stop. And they make fun of us in the meantime. It's disgusting. I mean, where you at on this, dude?
Well, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, what else is new? I mean, um, it's kind of interesting how, I guess Powell, I don't know, is him saying that, is that a case of, a broken clock is right twice a day when he says the spending is unsustainable, or it's just more like, okay, that's really self-evident for everybody to see. Yeah, it is. But he just, like, whatever, he just says it. So people, okay, whatever, he acknowledges that, yeah, it's a problem, or it could be a problem in the future. But of course, that doesn't ever mean that the spending will stop. So, I mean, I don't know. He says a lot of stuff. I mean, he said way back in, what was it, 2021? Oh, our target is 2% inflation. That's what we're trying to. So he says stuff's not unscientific, but then somehow he comes up with this magic number, 2% inflation. And then, of course, that's, in
Per
a year.
year,
And then, and then he
2% per year.
changes what that means. And then it's, oh, inflation's transitory. And then, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And now here we are. So I don't know. He's the Fed chairman. I mean, he's basically a lackey, for the current administration. So yeah, he just kind of has to acknowledge that there's this, it's unsustainable. But what does that even mean? Does he mean like, oh, we can keep spending like this for 20, 50 more years and then it'll be a problem? Or does he mean it's a problem right now? I don't know, because the way things are going, they don't really seem to be too bothered, because it's just like, yeah, what is, 95 billion. Oh, it's 3 trillion, whatever. No big deal. So I don't know. I don't expect the spending to stop anytime soon. But no matter how many people or how many times Jerome Powell says it's unsustainable, it's just apparently he doesn't seem to be, in actuality, all too bothered by it.
Well, let me pull this up real quick. Let me I saved something from Peter St. Ange on my phone that he had tweeted today, actually, which will be a couple days later by the time you guys hear this. But this is interesting. Peter St. Ange is great when it comes to econ and like money and banking, but he throws this out today. 34 months into transitory inflation, and it's actually going up. Fresh CPI numbers came in at and at an annualized 3.7% last month compared to 2.8% in the previous month. 1.9% the month before that, and under 1% back in October. Spot the trend. Dude,
Whoa, so are you saying the Inflation Reduction Act didn't reduce inflation?
it was never inflation was never even part of the act. Like there's no wording in that act that says it's going to cut inflation. These people are insane. And the fact of the matter is that we are in an election year, obviously, it's 2024. They're pulling out all the stops, and they're not going to stop pulling out all the stops. And it's going to get crazier and crazier and crazier the closer we get to it. It's inevitable. Honestly, think about 2020. Do you remember how crazy 2020 was? Especially
Yeah.
come summertime, when the weather was nice and people could go march the streets and do whatever they were doing. You can mark my words right now that 2020, the summer of love in 2020, is going to look like child's play to what's to come, because they're throwing everything out there at us. Like for instance today, and take this with a grain of salt, because this came from Fox News, right? And we can't trust mainstream media, and we can segue into something else that's actually awesome about mainstream media from here. Dude, Fox News is out there reporting that Russia has all these weapons that are up in space that can attack us. They're trying, they're saying, hey, Russia has this satellite that has these weapons, and they can destroy America from there, per se. Not verbatim, don't take me verbatim, but this is what they're saying. This is their scare tactics right now. And they're saying, oh my God, Russia has all this stuff in space and they're going to get us. You guys.
Yeah, I mean, Russia's always the boogeyman. It's all politics. So dumb. I mean, it's like, okay, so yeah, I saw that report. It was like Fox News reports. It's like congressional Republicans are talking about the Russian national security threat. So it's like, oh, okay. So the people that spy on us and steal from us and start wars and get a bunch of Americans killed and debase our currency, they're warning us that there's a national security threat. Oh yeah, I'm gonna trust those people, the people that have been lying to us every single day, who just like looting the taxpayers. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like, yeah, I'm sure they're really looking out for our best interest. So it's like, aren't they renewing some sort of like trying to renew or redo some sort of FISA Act thing? So it's like, okay, yeah, we're just gonna now pass a whole bunch of crazy legislation now because Russia bad, and so now we need to have like a bigger mass surveillance state than we have, and we need to have a new tax to pay for this. We need to beef up military spending. It just, I mean, just more of the same racket,
Well,
more or
the
less.
craziest part is we've been at war with Russia for over 2 years, and then people say Ukraine's at war. No, we're in it too. We're paying for it. We're sending the weapons, and we actually have boots on the ground there. Don't let anybody tell you any different. There are boots on the ground in Ukraine, which, by the way, was never declared by Congress, but Congress gave up their rights to all that shit after 9/11. We don't need to get into that. I'm sorry. I like to go off on a little tangent every once in a while. Fact of the matter is, though, if Putin really wanted to attack America, wouldn't he have done it by now? We've been poking the bear over there in Ukraine with him for over fucking 2 years now, and you're just now getting worried about some satellite shit in the fucking in the sky and in space somewhere that he can get us. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to they're pulling out all the stops in 2024. They're going to have you so shook. They're begging for war. The United States government wants war more than anything. And so does the media. And they go hand in hand, because we know who owns the media. We know who's in bed with the government. We don't need to get into all that. And I don't need to be called an anti-Semite right now. But anyways, yeah, I just said that out loud. But anyways, dudes, like, why all of a sudden are we worried about space Russia even though we've been over there for 2 years and they could have done whatever they wanted to at their own will for the last 2 years. And now we're supposed to be worried about space, Russia. Turn your fucking TV off, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like every time they try to paint Putin and Russia as like the next Adolf Hitler and all this kind of stuff. And the more they, it's like, oh, Putin blew up his own pipeline, or like that missile they shot into Poland, they try to blame on Putin and all this
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So it's like, and no one believes them, and it's just like everyone. Anytime they come out with some report or some story, everyone just laughs and mocks them because we all know they're just propaganda wing. They're just lying through their teeth, and it's so apparently obvious, and they're laughing stock. So it's, I don't know. Is it like they're just going to the ratcheting it up to the level of desperation? Oh, he's got space nukes. Oh, he's good. Oh, he's got a giant Death Star in the sky. He's going to come and kill us. We better do something about Putin. It just gets more insane and insane and insane. But for everything I've seen, everyone is pretty much just like laughing at them. Like, yeah, this isn't like the biggest national security threat is the people telling us Putin's a national security threat. So I don't know. It would be a lot more funny if there wasn't actually like real world consequences to these lunatics saying things like this, and who knows what they're going to do. But I don't know. It just seems like they're just getting so desperate because no one believes them. Everyone knows they're just lying through their teeth all the time. They're just getting more extreme and more extreme and
Well, like
trying to scare everybody.
here's the catch, man.
How soon do you think it'll be before they start saying like Putin's got like basically a Death Star, and oh no, he's gonna just one button and he's gonna vaporize everybody.
It's
That's the
only
next
a
thing.
matter of days. The way they're going right now, they're saying he's going to shoot us out from the sky, from outer space. He's going to get us. Did you happen to catch that interview with Tucker with Putin? Did you watch
Yes,
that? It was a long
I
interview.
did. Yeah,
I stretched that out into a few days actually, but and let me be very clear about this. Vladimir Putin is the ultimate propagandist. He's probably the best at it, honestly, of anyone. I will say that I do believe that like Russian propaganda is a real thing and such. But
yeah, all governments propagandize. I mean,
but like dude, the guy went on national TV with Tucker Carlson. Well, not national TV. It had to be privatized through certain, websites
right.
like that because they're not going to show that. I listened to that interview with an open mind, knowing that Putin is Putin. And some of it was probably bullshit. I would say a good third of it was probably bullshit because, when Tucker was like, why did you invade Ukraine? And then he goes into his history lesson from like Russia back in 900 and whatever. Nobody gives a shit about that. He was kind of dodging, right? And his history was a little off not by a little off, I'm being modest. When he said, Hitler went into Poland because Poland, not verbatim, but like Poland asked for Hitler to invade them is what he alluded to. That wasn't true. Like, that's not true at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what to tell people. That's not how that went down. Poland was invaded because they had Jews there, and that's that. But anyways, let's go back to this. If the man wanted to attack the United States, he would have done it long ago. He doesn't want to. And when he was asked about why he, if there was any type of way for peace, to stop what's going on over there, he said what I've been talking about on Buds for the longest time. Hey, the opportunity was there. Boris Johnson stopped it 2 years ago. 2 years. Ukraine and Russia could have been over right after it started, technically within a few months. But Boris Johnson, the UK prime minister was like, no, we're not doing this because they want this. They need this. People don't understand how nasty the war machine really is. They need it for central banks in order to print money to create the booms they need to create. And don't think for 2 seconds that the central banks aren't funding both sides of the war, because that's what they do. You know, we're in a situation where, you know, and let's fuck, man, let's fuck it. Let's put on our tinfoil hats right now. I think we need to put on our tinfoil hats, honestly. I wish I thought about making one and then I forgot because I was so busy today. But anyways, this is crazy. And a lot of people will think I'm crazy, but I think I'm pretty on point. You know, this is an election year. The United States is literally poking the bear everywhere they possibly can. They're not only provoking Russia, they're provoking the Middle East, and now they're provoking Russia, China, and now the Middle East. I'm sorry. The Russia and the China thing was already happening. Now they're provoking the Middle East because they have to help out their Israeli friends. And here we are as Americans going, okay, what's next? This is what's next, you guys. Our military, number one, is at the lowest numbers it's been in many decades. We don't have a military, and they're all overseas, right? Pretty much all of our military, there's somewhere around 200,000 troops over there right now in the Middle East and Russia and out there in the world, right? Now, riddle me this. We go out there, we're out there fucking around with all these countries. Are we not thinking there's not going to be blowback? Are we not thinking that there can't be an attack on US soil, especially when there's no troops here to protect us? They're all overseas. They've done sent the National Guard overseas. They've done sent the Coast Guard overseas. I have a very good receipt on the Coast Guard. Unfortunately, I can't use that name. But I know somebody who was in the Coast Guard who they were going to deploy to the Middle East, but he didn't renew, so he got out of it. You know, that's the story. But like, they're literally sending people who are supposed to be here, the National Guard and the Coast Guard, to the Middle East, right? What do we think is going to happen? All our troops are over there. We're pissing everyone off, literally everyone who matters, like the Middle East, the Russians, the Chinese, these big countries, these big factions, these big terrorist groups. We're out there pissing them all off. And to think that there's not going to be an attack on U.S. soil would be foolish. But why does that matter? Well, it matters, number one, because we're Americans and there don't need to be attacks here. That's fucked up on any front. This is why we're anti-war. There shouldn't be attacks anywhere. But number two, you want to know what's going to happen if there's an attack here on the U.S. soil? This show is sponsored by Infinite Zeal Syndicate. You can follow him on Twitter at _Infinite Zeal. He is a great liberty-minded fella that just wants to share the message of liberty and also has fantastic merch like this hat I'm wearing right now. You see me wear it on every show. He's a great gentleman, and I highly suggest you give him a follow because he's one of the good ones, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's get on with the show. They're going to scratch the election. And I think that's exactly what they want. And there's your tinfoil hat. There's your tinfoil hat.
Yeah, wouldn't it be surprising? Who knows what kind of. Yeah, I just honestly at this point, like, whatever ends up being the case, whether they have an election, whatever gets pulled or whatever, like, I won't be surprised. So, I can't even say that's a crazy theory because I mean it's like it could be plausible. I mean what they've been doing, but even didn't Putin also say like oh well he wouldn't attack the United States because why would he attack the United States when it's destroying itself? You know what I mean?
He said that.
So it's like why is he gonna waste his manpower and resources and everything launching an attack against the United States when the United States is destroying itself perfectly well through mass migration and debasement of the currency and how weaponized all the institutions are, going after people politically, like the normalization of pedophilia and like transitioning kids and all that, like everything. So it's like, I mean, we're doing a perfectly fine job of destroying ourselves. And Putin doesn't have to lift a finger or waste or lose any troops or waste any resources to do it. He basically just have to wait, play the waiting game. And the one thing we do have, I guess, is I guess he just waits until, God forbid, the guns ever get grabbed. But it's like, well, you don't want to invade the most armed country on planet Earth. So there we got that going for us. But yeah, I mean, we're going back to your point. I wouldn't be surprised if they suspend the election or whatever they're doing with Trump, and maybe we have but my tinfoil hat conspiracy is like, they want Trump actually to be president. So it's like you go after Trump and do all this BS and get everyone riled up and tell everybody, oh, he's not going to be in the ballot and stuff. Now everybody wants to vote for Trump. But well, now they really do want Trump in, because Trump isn't really anti-establishment. He didn't do anything anti-establishment as president.
No,
he he did a lot of the opposite. So indicting Julian Assange, pushing out the vaccine, spending trillions of dollars.
well, the funny thing
all that
is
kind of
about
stuff.
Trump is
That's my conspiracy tinfoil hat theory. I'm not saying that's real. I'm just saying, like, if I had to have a conspiracy theory, that's mine. Anyway.
well, but they're not far fetched, and you really got to start thinking right now, like, what the fuck are they really doing right now? You got the chair of the Federal Reserve out here saying, "Hey, man, this isn't working. You guys can't keep spending." But then they turn around and they're like, "Hey, we need to go to war everywhere," which creates a shit ton of spending. Which, by the way, and by the way, when it comes to all that shit, they're talking about dropping the interest rates again, which would be great. Like, we need the interest rates to drop. But you know what comes with that? More inflation. Always. Anytime they drop the interest rates, it's more inflation. Look it up. Find it. Look, it's all there. It's all on paper.
Oh, that just means you can borrow more money for cheaper. So hell yeah, the spending's just gonna go.
But the foreign policy thing right now is the United States government is they're making Americans less safe by the day. Their actions make us less safe. Now, thank God we're the largest armed country in the entire world. Okay, like, this is one thing I do like to say. Like, if there was an attack on U.S. soil, we are the largest standing militia in the world. Now, does that mean that the largest standing militia in the world is going to dig their boots in the dirt and fight? I would probably say you're only getting a third of those people. I think a third of gun owners will actually dig their boots in the dirt and fight if there was an invasion. I think most people would run scared. I really do.
Most people actually would, and I'm meaning like most like Republicans. They would, yeah, I agree with you. They'd be the first ones to turn in their guns. Let's just say President Trump gets reelected, or even Joe Biden. They do some sort of gun grab, like we're going to ban we're going to ban certain kinds of rifles or whatever. They'll all comply with it. They'll all comply. They'll turn their guns in, and then they'll say, "Well, hopefully the Supreme Court will save us." You know what I mean? So it's like they're pretty much useless. Like, Republican gun owners, at the end of the day, they're going to turn in their guns and they're going to hope for the court system to save them. And so honestly, like, that's the one discouraging part for me, is like, I don't really feel like, when have you ever seen Republicans, people on the right, like, hold the line on guns? They're usually like conceding ground and I mean, there's some sheriff departments that like refuse to enforce stuff, but I don't know. I feel like if this comes down to like a smaller group of like libertarians and ANCAPs and stuff, like who are going to be like, absolutely under no circumstances am I surrendering my firearm. And so you say 1/3, that's, maybe that's a good number, maybe even less than that.
Probably less than
So
that. You're probably right.
most people, yeah, most of them will probably, they're going to be like, yeah, I don't know. We just have to, cross that bridge. But
I don't want to have to cross any bridges. Like, we shouldn't have to cross bridges as Americans. Like, the bridges were crossed hundreds of years ago, and now here we are with history repeating itself. Except now we have way more people by the millions, but way more soft as fuck. Like, dude, I've been listening to a lot of documentaries at work lately with some of the guys I work with or whatever, and they're like the Caesar times and stuff like that. Those people were savage as fuck back then. Honestly, they didn't play games with their government or anything like that. Caesar's kids killed Caesar, dude. You know what I mean? Like, that shit's not happening nowadays. You know what I mean? Like, he got out of control. They said, hey, we're going to take you out. And that's what they did. This isn't happening nowadays, and this is a time where, like, I don't give a fuck, honestly. If you're listening to NSA, fuck you. If you're listening to FBI, fuck you. This is a time where politicians and people in DC need to be afraid of us. Enough of this shit. Honestly. Enough already, as Scott Horton would say. Like, they're literally toying with our lives. They're toying with everyday citizens with their own policies, and they don't give a fuck. They're going to do what they do, and they know that fucking people are just going to sit back and take it and complain online and do nothing else. This is where we're at right now. And this is why
just make sure you vote harder next time, and hopefully things will be better, right?
That's what they say. Like, hey, let's vote harder. We're going to vote harder this time. Like, right now, people are like, we're going to vote harder for Trump because Biden's so bad. You're
Yeah,
not getting out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of, see, to me, it's like everything gets put on at the election, right? So it's, we already know it's going to be the most important election ever, because the last one was the most important election ever, and the one before that was the most important election ever.
You put up a video on that on Twitter. I love that.
Yeah, dude. And it's just like, I mean, come on, like at a certain point in time, the election itself have to be like the problem, because so in 2016 was, we can go back, you see the video, you can go back 50, 60 years plus, every election is the most important. So, and that of course was the case in 2016. They said it was the most important election. Make America great again. And so, Trump won, and Trump had a majority, and the Republicans had a majority in Congress, in both houses, in the White House. And somehow you get to 2020 and we're back to it's the most important election ever. Well, I thought if we elected you in 2016, you're going to make America great again. You had a majority in both houses, and you didn't do jack shit. And so,
ended up losing to the Democrats.
And I'm supposed to believe you this time around. And it's like everyone's going to be foaming at the mouth about the election. Oh, if you don't vote Republican, you're voting Democrat. If you vote Libertarian or third party, you don't vote, you're like voting for Democrats or whatever, some BS. But at what point in time do you and then these are the same people that say like, well, if you don't vote, you can't complain, or if you vote third party, you can't complain. But I hear these people, and usually it's like right-wingers and Trump supporters, they're constantly complaining about how dangerous the vaccine was, lockdowns. They're saying no COVID amnesty. They're complaining about
Who
rhinos.
rolled out the vaccine again? Who was that?
They're complaining about
Warp Speed. Who did that? By the way,
they're complaining about spending and inflation. They complain about how Julian Assange was treated the January 6 prisoners. I'm like, so you're telling me I can't complain if I don't vote, but you voted for the guy that's responsible and played a part for all the stuff you're complaining about. So at what point are you responsible for that yourself? You voted for it. I didn't vote for that. So why are you bitching?
Right. Trumpers are,
And it's just like, it's such a cult, and I can't, like, it just blows my mind. I mean, and then people like, so, and also, I don't want to go on another tangent about voting, but it's like, and so another thing is like, okay, so then you have these supposedly pro-life people, usually all on the right, and they're all the ones supporting wars. They're the ones that just unquestionably usually defend police when they're doing like just killing people. They're like out there supporting these businesses and corporations that like donate to leftist causes like abortion and stuff. So it's like you're undermining your vote. So people like undermine their vote every day, like with how they spend their money, where they do business. And to me, it's like they're all holier than now and on their high horse about voting. They got their sticker. I'm making a difference. I'm you know, doing my part for democracy or whatever, my civic duty. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, you're just perpetuating all this stuff, that all the problems that you think you're voting against.
right.
And then every day of your life, you're sitting and giving business to corporations that hate you, that are like in league with this like quote unquote leftist woke agenda that's undermining everything you stand for. But you're just keep giving, like, I mean, like, where does it end? Like, you have to stop participating in that. Like, standing in line once every 4 years isn't changing anything.
Well,
Like,
that's
you
the thing.
actually have to do something besides that.
Well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, kind of like electing the same people over and over. And that's another thing that Putin pointed out in his interview with Tucker was, you know, he asked about, Russia, interfering with our elections. And Putin was like, why do I have to? You have the same people running all the time.
Yeah.
Which is a solid point. Like, why does he have to fucking interfere with the elections? It's the same fucking puppets every time, dude. It's wild, dude. Like, a lot of people look at libertarians and anarchists as Putin apologists. Dude, fuck Putin, honestly, and fuck Russia. Fuck their government, anyways. God bless their people. I say that all the time, dude. Like, their people don't want this shit. But does he make some solid points? Yes. Do I wish my leader was as articulate and well spoken as he was? Yes, I sure do. But instead we get, stumbling, mumbling Joe who can't even, complete a whole sentence, let alone, carry a whole 2 hour long interview. Could you imagine Joe Biden in a 2 hour interview? It's not practical. It's not feasible. You're not going to get it.
Oh, you can't even get 20 minutes with the guy. You can't even have the guy sit down for 15, 20 minutes. He'd be taking a nap.
You know,
So,
and
I mean,
they just came out with the I can't remember, the cognitive test or whatever, and he's refusing to take the cognitive test. They're refusing because they know he's going to fail it. But we're going to put him out there as president. We're going to not, first off, we're not going to run an election or a primary at all. This is your guy, which, by the way, let me throw some out there real quick. There was a woman named Marianne Williamson who ran as a Democrat. A lot of people liked her, and her following was very passionate. Okay. Do I agree with everything she said? Absolutely not. I don't agree with any statist. If you're running with the R or the D next to your name, I'm not going to agree with you. I'll agree with you on some policies, sure, but I'm not going to agree with you because I know you're a fucking statist trash. But the fact of the matter is, Marianne Williamson ran as a Democrat, who got the silent treatment just like everybody else did. and recently dropped out of the presidential race, right? Now I looked on a thread on Twitter or whatever, and the consensus was this: her following is pissed off, but not at her for dropping, but at the DNC for not running a proper primary. Okay.
Their whole thing is rigged. I mean,
Well, yeah, we know it's rigged. Dude, Lars said, I talked about this on my last show with Will Huff. Lars Mapstead pointed out something to me that I had no idea about in 2020. And the fact is that 1,500 people ran for president in 2020. Over 1,500, actually.
huh?
How many did you see on your ballot? 6, 7?
Not 1,500. Yeah.
No. And do you think out of 1,500 people, there wasn't two people in there a better choice than Biden or Trump? I'm a gambling man, and I would gamble. Yes, there were, and there was more than two. But the way the whole system is, it's rigged. The system's rigged, and it's not by what people would think. Well, they rigged the election with counting votes, and they do that too. I can guarantee you they do that too. It's rigged to the fact that nobody gets a shot other than the two major parties, because the two major parties are massive corporations and they own the voting system. There's no getting around it, and they will change the rules on any third party candidate at any given point. Look at what they did to Larry Sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And to think, that was Larry Sharp on a higher level running for governor, who has run before and a larger voice in the libertarian community. Think of what they're doing to people like Marianne Williamson, or, Colonel West, or whoever else is running out there. RFK's out there trying to make a name for himself in the independent circuit, but like, they're going to find out real quick they don't have a chance because they don't have ballot access, number one, and number two, it's a dollars game, and you don't have the dollars that these corporations have, the RNC and the DNC. So the whole choice thing is an illusion. You don't have a choice. You have an illusion of choice, and that's everything across the board. Like, it's not just about voting. It's anything they put on the table. They say, hey, this is the way it is, and that's that. Is that freedom? No, we're not free. We're fucking slaves. And America really needs to figure that out sooner than later, because, a vast majority of the people here think that we're a free country and that we are free citizens. No, we're not. We're not even close to that. You go to work 40 plus hours a week and they take half your fucking money. Tell me that's not slavery. I don't know what to tell folks, dude.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, like, I don't know. I'm definitely getting on board with people that talk about, like, okay, local elections are. I'm not, are more important to a degree. So it's like, to me, it's like, okay, I can see that. So it's like a local election is important to the extent that you're going to have somebody like governor or whatever that's going to do what's in best interest, regardless of what the federal government's saying. So if you have a governor that's going to nullify bad laws and be like, okay, yeah, we're not doing that, we're not enforcing that, X, Y, and Z down the line, and it's like, okay, I can get behind like what you're saying, that this election's important. But yeah, once we get to the federal level, it's just, I mean, I don't know what has to happen for people to realize like it's not going to be different this time. Like, say you reelect Trump, okay, so is the spending going to stop?
Fuck no.
Okay, so we know from every other election in his first term it's not gonna. Well, the war's going to stop? No. Is inflation going to stop? No. Are the three-letter agencies going to legislate themselves out of existence? No. Is illegal immigration going to stop? No. Like, it's nothing's going to stop. Like, it's not going to be different this time. So I don't know, like, what has to happen for people to realize, like, yeah, you know what, you can elect the most conservative or supposedly anti-establishment person in the world that you want, But at the end of the day, I mean, I can just look at history and be like, okay, all these things have always continued. And so when am I supposed to believe it's going to be different this time?
It,
Like, I don't think so.
and
Like,
that's something I've
so
learned along the way is that nothing is ever different. It's just a different person forcing their
there's
policy.
nothing new under the sun is real. Like, you don't have to believe the Bible. You can be an atheist, but you can at least acknowledge, like, yeah, you know what? Uh, let's just look at the trends here. Oh, look how the dollar's lost 99 or whatever percent of its value since the Federal Reserve was created. Oh, amazing. Oh, look at the national debt. Oh, government spending has always increased. The government has always gotten bigger. There's always a war, always at war. Like, show me where this trend ends.
And it
Show
doesn't.
me why. Like it doesn't matter. Like, the toothpaste is out of the tube. Like, you're not like reversing any of this. The national debt's not getting paid off. We already have the, unfortunately, the radical trans agenda is so pervasive. It's affecting little kids. That's not, you're not reversing that. Um, you can have all Republicans in Congress, doesn't matter. Like, at a certain point, it's like, okay, national divorce is really the only like real solution for me.
Right.
So I don't know. The more this goes on, it's like, yeah, national divorce is not a bad idea.
You know, and a lot of it, oh man, I'm glad you brought up national divorce, especially right now within the Libertarian Party, because there's
Especially
certain
since we just had Lincoln's birthday the other day.
fuck Lincoln, man, that piece of shit. Oh boy. Oh boy, here we go. You had to bring that son of a bitch up. You know
I
what?
mean, it just all
I
goes
think I
back.
think I need to let you have your piece about Abraham Lincoln right now
No,
because
I've already had my piece. I just tweeted about Abraham Lincoln on his birthday.
you've been
Make
doing
sure
serious work about Lincoln, though. I think people need to hear a
I
little
make
bit about.
sure I remind people, don't forget. Um, it's always crazy to me. It's like, the funniest thing is whenever I'll just list like a bunch of facts about Abraham Lincoln, right? Of course, I don't know why I always end up going to Abraham Lincoln, but I'll just list a bunch of facts about Abraham Lincoln. Like, okay, shut down over 300 newspapers. Fact. You can try to argue with me that happened. Jailed thousands of political prisoners without due process. Even the whole state legislature, newspaper editors, just dragged them away. Um, Committed mass war crimes, tried to deport blacks. Um, Emancipation Proclamation freed nobody. Even Lincoln admitted that at the Hampton Roads Conference. So even by going back to like the shutting down newspapers and arresting people, it's so funny. There's always somebody, and it's usually like a constitutional, like conservative, right wing person.
Of course.
They're always like, "Oh, like you're missing like context with that." Okay, so what's the context? Oh, and it's like, oh well, they were at war. So it's like I have a constitutional, supposedly conservative, who's like complaining about everything Joe Biden does is unconstitutional. And he's defending Abraham Lincoln shutting down over 300 newspapers and suppressing free speech and jailing dissidents um, because they were quote unquote at war. So apparently you don't have rights out during wartime. So it's just so interesting to me this how indoctrinated people are. It's like, okay, like they have to worship Abraham Lincoln and they have to justify everything he did because that's how you're like raised and indoctrinated with. But they're also self-described constitutional conservatives. So it's like they're between a rock and a hard place. It's like, oh well, he was at war, so I guess it's like you don't have rights during wartime. Like that's the only time like that's then you don't have rights at all. If you don't have rights during wartime, then you just have privileges. Um, and so then no one ever has any rights because we're always at war. Then the president can do whatever he wants at all times. All he has to do is say, "Oh, we're at war," or a national emergency, and all of a sudden, poof, your rights go away. And then so um, that's just always funny to me, like how many people come out of the woodwork who are like conservative to defend him in his all the stuff that he did. But it's like I always harp on Abraham Lincoln because he's just so objectively like a tyrant. like, I don't know how you can just like read it and like just understand like all the stuff he did and be like, oh, he was, people say he's a benevolent dictator, like, oh, he did it for our own good or whatever, blah blah blah. I'm like, if people are like so delusional, like they're just going to defend a tyrant, they're going to defend the guy who is he wrote a communist, literally. That just goes to show you, like, it's like, okay, now I can understand why people disbelieve all sorts of BS about like Putin or like Israel and Palestine or COVID, and they just believe all sorts of propaganda. It's like, yeah, like you just can't, like, you can't accept objective reality. So I don't know. There's very few things that bring me more joy than triggering people about Abraham Lincoln. So yeah. What were we talking about? National divorce? Yeah, I kind of derailed it.
No, that's
Derailed
okay.
it pretty much
And
right
and
there.
I kind of made up a joke about the whole Lincoln Biden thing. And not really a
We're
joke.
more free. We're objectively free. Joe Biden's America than in Abraham Lincoln's. Like, you have, like, free speech is protected more under. I'm not like, this is not an endorsement of Joe Biden, but it's like free speech is protected more in Joe Biden's America than in Abraham Lincoln's. We'd all be dragged away. Like, I have no fear of being dragged away, going to prison for criticizing Joe Biden. But in Lincoln's America, oh hell yeah, we would be without. They would just show up at the house at midnight, drag you away, and that's the end of it.
Well, that's part of the joke I kind of made up, even though it's not really a joke because it's real. What's the difference between Joe Biden and Abraham Lincoln?
But
At least Joe Biden's political opponents got fucking a court case.
yeah, I mean,
Like Lincoln was having people locked up with no trial at all.
yeah,
He was
he
just locking up his opponents and people who disagreed with him with no trial, no nothing. He was just locking them up. At least Trump gets a circus trial.
yeah, at least
You know what
there's
I mean?
this
Like, what the fuck, dude?
there's this great book. It's called 14 Months in American Bastilles, and it was free. I think it's still free on Google. It was free on Google for a while. It's by Frank Key Howard. Okay. And Frank Key Howard is the grandson of Francis Scott Key.
Wow.
So we know
Okay.
Francis Scott Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner. Okay. Frank Key Howard was a newspaper editor in Baltimore, or writer or something. And he wrote, some articles critical of Abraham Lincoln. And the book kind of details his ordeal, like how William Seward, the Secretary of State, his like secret police, basically just showed up at his house, middle of the night, took him away, and threw him in Fort McHenry, of all places. And Fort McHenry is where Francis Scott Key, he saw where the flag at Fort McHenry. And so that's where his Francis Scott Key's grandson was in prison for criticizing Abraham Lincoln without a trial. Just showed up at his house, middle of the night, Stalin style. Well, before Stalin, that's where Stalin probably got his ideas from.
Probably.
And threw him away in Fort McHenry. So yeah, the guy was just an evil tyrant, racist, war criminal. And I'm not in favor of tearing down statues. We shouldn't tear down statues of Thomas Jefferson or Robert E. Lee or any of these people. But you know what? If the temple to Abraham Lincoln got torn down, I wouldn't be mad. If anybody deserved to have their statue torn down, it's Abraham Lincoln. Like, just an objective fact.
Absolutely. And the dude has his face on Mount Rushmore, which Mount Rushmore needs to go. I know that sounds un-American. I don't care. We shouldn't be worshiping fucking presidents. They're the last people we should be worshiping, actually. I think it's insanity that we have something like this here in America. But whatever, Star Spangled Banner, the land of the free, whatever bullshit, whatever. But you know what, man? I think a lot of people need to polish up on some reading and some learning. And so I brought a handful of books here that I really think would help people understand what the fuck is really going on here. And to fully understand what the fuck is really going on here is to understand the banking system, the economy, and foreign policy. This is why my shows have been on these, these three subjects for so long now. I mean, I feel like ever since I had my surgery, like Buds has been about, banking, foreign policy, and econ. And because those are the three most important things in our everyday lives, which happen to be something that the government controls. Well, actually, the central bank controls, and the government is their puppets. Um, but I did bring these books here that I would like to share. First one being End the Fed by Ron Paul. This is going to be your easiest book to read. Um, it's not very long, and to be quite honest with you, it's put in layman's terms where everybody can understand it. Okay. This is a good primer. It's a very good start. Second, I'm going to say this. Read Fed Up by Danielle Booth. Danielle DeMartino Booth, if you want to get technical. It's called Fed Up, and it's all about the Federal Reserve and why they are an evil entity and what they do. Like, in the same thing with and the Fed, it all explains how the Federal Reserve works and why it's bad. This book is a little different. The case against the Fed by Murray Rothbard it's a short book, but we all know that Rothbard was more of a lecture person. So if you're not into like lectures and stuff like that, this probably isn't for you. But Rothbard is amazing. There's no Ron Paul without Rothbard, and I'll stand behind that firmly. Murray Rothbard paved the landscape of the liberty movement that Ron Paul built on, and I stand behind that wholeheartedly. This one I'm going to say read last because it's so damn long. I mean, look how thick that is, dude. You're going to be reading this forever. But
Textbook.
it literally is a textbook. But the funny thing is about this textbook, The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin. It's a textbook, but written like a fictional story, which makes it very intriguing and interesting. I think those books should be taught in schools, whether it be university or, high school. I think everybody needs to polish up on this shit and start learning. These books are teaching tools to show you exactly what they're doing, what they're up to, how money works, what they're doing with the money, how they inflate money, how they inflate and deflate the interest rates. They inflate and deflate the dollar too. And something that Derek Wills pointed out in his book, The Liberty Solution, like they'll deflate the dollar as well. If it's where there's a sweet spot where they want your money. And if it gets too high, they fuck with it. And if it gets too low, they fuck with it. How about this? How about we decentralize money? How about we get rid of the Federal Reserve, the ones who are in charge of the inflation, the interest rates, with which what they do is they just do what they do and they're unchecked. They've never been audited. They've never been questioned. They just do what they do, and we have to take it. Enough already. Decentralization of the dollar is the way out of this. Decentralization of all money is the way for a prosperous nation and to also be free of stuff like this. This is why I've been, harping on get gold, get silver, learn Bitcoin. You can't just get Bitcoin, you have to learn it. You have to get out there and start claiming assets. The last thing they want is you owning assets. And I know a lot of us are broke. I'm broke, dude. A lot of people are broke, living paycheck to paycheck, whatever it may be. But not everybody's broke. And if you find your broke buddy, or a couple of broke buddies, maybe you can put your money together and get you some assets, get you some land. Land is the way, man. Land is the way because you can farm it. Find some good farming land, get yourself some chickens, get yourself some livestock, get yourself whatever you can do. And if you can't do it on your own, you have to rely on partners. But hey, you're getting by. This is the way to get out of things. And I know it seems like that's walking backwards, considering that we have technology or this, that, or the other. But if you really want to get out of this game that they're fucking playing with us, we're going to have to resort to that for a little while. I think you're going to have to go back to trade and barter. You're going to have to go back to growing your own food. You're going to have to go back to hunting and fishing because they're poisoning our shit, by the way. Like this is a whole other show. I got to get Sammy Stokes back on here to talk about that. But like they're poisoning the food. They've been doing it for decades. We have food here that is legal to sell in the United States that countries in Europe and other places, it's illegal. They you can't serve that. And so we really have to think about, I talk about decentralization and nullification a lot within like government shit, but like you can decentralize yourself by doing set things. Go own shit, go buy shit, get yourself some assets, own your house, own land, own gold, own silver, own Bitcoin, things that they can't take from you. They can take your land, unfortunately, if you don't pay your taxes for now, but if we get the right people, I'm not saying vote harder, but the right people, in power that will say, hey, you don't need to pay your taxes. We can do this way. We're heading in that direction. But what I don't want to see is it be too late, like places in Argentina where their inflation was 150% per year. And that's why they decided they were going to elect a libertarian in office. That guy has a lot of work cut out for him because of that. You know,
Yeah.
it's not going to be sunshine
And
and rainbows for him, dude. It's going to be fucked up situation.
yeah, and going back to what I was saying kind of earlier, like yeah, you buy gold and silver and those kind of things and land, and also like start doing like business with people that like are aligned with your values and you can make common cause with. So yeah, like don't buy. Not saying you're bad if you buy Starbucks or something, but like Starbucks isn't aligned with me on things. Like there's places I can buy coffee that's owned by people that I may not agree with everything that with them politically, but I know that they're like, they are family oriented, community oriented, care about America, um, and they're a lot more closer aligned with me, like small business. Like, yeah, that's who I want to give my money to. That's who I want to have a relationship with. Um, like I have a good friend that's a farmer, same kind of thing. Like, yeah, he's a more conservative guy, and I don't, he's like believes things I don't necessarily agree with all of it, and that's fine. I don't have to agree with everything. He's, um, again, he's a community oriented person. We have a lot of the same values. That's someone I want to do business with and have a relationship with, and so on down the line with everything. So, in addition to the things you're saying, it's yeah, there's a parallel economy out there we can all participate in. And we don't have to give our money to these ESG kind of corporations. And they're not all bad per se, but they're always gonna bend the knee to whatever political pressure there is on them to be, um, inclusive or woke or do whatever agenda. So, and what's that up? Was it called Public Square or something? Um, that's a good place to find a lot of like businesses where people are on the same page as you and me. So that's what I'm trying to do a better job of is like I don't have to like I can't help. Yeah, my taxes get taken out before I even see it. Nothing we can do about that. We all are going to have our taxes stolen from us. Um, that's not voluntary, but we can make a choice of voluntarily, um, but with our money in a way that positively impacts us in the community and enhances the principles we believe in. So I think that's just as important as anything else we could do, is being more conscious of where we spend our money on a daily basis. And um, that's to me, that's more important than even voting itself, is quote unquote voting with your money. So Yeah, in addition to all the things you talked about, is I would just say be more conscious. We can all do a better job of being more conscious of um, how we do that.
Absolutely. And we have to do that. I think if enough people got behind the idea, and not to say that my ideas are the best, I'm nobody in this world, honestly. Like we're in a country with 330 some odd million people, you know, I'm nobody. I'm just throwing ideas out there to try to help, my peers and my fellow humans. But like if you really want a way out of this, it's first off taking yourself out of the monetary system as much as you possibly can. And if businesses got behind it, like businesses have got behind Bitcoin, okay? There's not a whole bunch of them out there, but there's some businesses that have got behind Bitcoin. And you know, I'm a little indifferent about, putting all my chips into Bitcoin. There was a time where I was like, yeah, Bitcoin, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. It is digital at the end of the day. You have to be careful. I would rather have something tangible such as gold, silver. Gold backs themselves. Gold backs would be a great exchange for money rather than the dollar, because it's kind of a money itself, or a dollar itself. It's a tangible. It's shaped like a dollar, but there's actually gold in it and it's backed by gold. Our dollar right now is backed by nothing. Our currency is backed by nothing but a money printer, which the money printer actually devalues. So like, why not get into a money system that will add value to yourself and your situation? Like Bitcoin is over 50 grand again, you know, and gold and silver keep going up. They're projecting gold and silver. Gold by 2025 is projected to be about $3,500 an ounce, which is about 2 grand right now. And silver is projected to be like $125 an ounce, which is like 20 or yeah, it's $125 an ounce. It's projected in 2025, and it's at $25 an ounce right now. So why not make those investments if you can? Like obviously not everybody's able to do that, but that's why I say find friends with a like mind and you can kind of figure it out from there. You can decentralize yourself. You can get out of this. There's ways out of this. And if enough people get behind it, DC's not going to have a choice but to, I don't want to say give you your way, but follow suit, because that's where the masses are going. If they don't have the masses, they have nothing. They have no power. And that's where, like, people like Spike Cohen with You Are the Power are correct. You are the power. You have the power to make change. You just have to go out and do it and not just sit back and be like, well, they're just going to do what they're going to do and everything's going to work itself out. We're beyond working itself out. We're not doing this anymore. Like we have to, change has to start with you. It's not going to start at the voting machines. It's not going to start with a new president or a new Senate or a new Congress. It starts with you, the individual. And with that, we should probably boogie, man. After all that, we should boogie.
I'm with you.
But yeah, man, I appreciate your time. Where can we find you? Let's
The usual place. X underscore instant Zeal. Um, yeah, that's where all the memes and everything's all the fun stuff's happening.
the man with the memes right here. You've achieved meme lord status, I feel like. You've definitely done that. So
Well, I appreciate it. I'm
thank
glad you
you.
like it. I'm glad so many other people do like my memes and share them and enjoy them. And yeah, that's part of the yeah. We talked earlier about what 2024 might look like, but honestly, it's going to be crazy. I have no idea what the hell is going to happen, but I do know it's going to be absolute gold mine for me.
Oh yeah.
So, however bad things seem like they are going to get or could be, I'm gonna try to have fun with it and mock the absurd and being the politicians and cyberbully the government, like Spike Cohen says, and at the end of the day, we can't control what's going to happen. We can't control if there's an election or not. We can't control what the result of the election is going to be. We can't control anything really, besides ourselves and what we do.
Bingo.
And
You can only control
I hope what people do is when they realize, okay, yeah, you can only control ourselves and what we do. And something that we should do is be memeing every single day and never stop ever. So I hope that I can just leave with a word of encouragement that we're not going to lose. We're not going to lose to that dementia, that senile old man, or that cackling hyena vice president. We're not going to lose to them. We're not going to lose to the three-letter agencies. We're just not going to. And I'm excited for the future. Again, not to beat a dead horse, I can't control anything that's going to happen. I can control myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mock the hell out of these people, and because they're my enemy, they're all of our enemies. There is a real national security threat, and I hope you'll join me. So at _ Zeal, and if you want to join me for the ride, that's where you'll find me. Let's do it
Hell
together.
yeah. Hell yeah, brother. And until next time, y'all, peace, love, and liberty. Be good. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other, man. You know, I know there's a lot of division in this world, but we take care of each other too, man. Be good.